Greetings, fellow Watford fans. Omar here with another edition of the Orns 10-minute take for Burnley nil, Watford nil at Turf Moor earlier tonight. Watford come away with their first clean sheet of the season. Some may say a missed opportunity tonight, but I think given everything about this game, the cold, swirling rain of Lancashire, and given the fact that Burnley were always going to make the game untidy and unkempt, Watford, I think, come away with a good point here in a game that saw them lay out a defensive template under Roy Hodgson in his first game in charge of the Orns. And Watford has some opportunities in the second half of this game in particular that they could have put away. João Pedro had a header on target, but it went straight to Mark Pope in the Burnley goal. Had he hit that header, directed it either left or right of Mark Pope, we would perhaps be walking away with a win. And had that VAR decision gone right, then we would have probably been talking about a win as well. It would have been the perfect thing to go into halftime on right at the end of the first half, where Burnley clearly had their man, Connor Roberts, with his arm outstretched in an unnatural position as he clearly handballed the ball. There's just no question in the penalty box. That's a stonewall penalty. VAR, however, thought, no, we're not having that. We're not having that, which is just absolutely ridiculous. You saw five Watford players swarming referee Craig Pawson, who I think had a pretty lousy game all around. I think both sets of fans are not happy with Craig Pawson after this game. Burnley fans were howling at him throughout the game for his decision making, and certainly Watford fans weren't having it with that VAR non-call. VAR also disgraced itself today, but then again, as we would say, what is new with VAR? Certainly has not come up in our favor in the end of this game. But the fact of the matter is, Watford do come away with a point. I thought that Watford's defensive structure was much better. Roy Hodgson has absolutely drilled that into them, and you could hear Ray Lewington throughout the game shouting at Watford players as they were moving up the pitch. I thought that was really good. Added to a great atmosphere for this match, which was really usually a dreary one, particularly that wet weather that was swirling around thanks to the winds that were just wreaking havoc with the corner flags. It's too bad, though. Watford's end product did not wreak havoc on Burnley. They should have been better in the final third, and that's the only criticism that I have of this team today. That end product just not up to snuff, and we did miss Emmanuel Dennis today. Emmanuel Dennis serving that one game ban after what happened against Norwich. He will be raring to go, I'm sure, on Tuesday night against West Ham at London Stadium. But before we get to that game, of course, on Tuesday, it is worth looking back at this game because João Pedro was up for it. He was adding bite in that attack, electricity as he ran. He was the main spark plug of the day up front for Watford. And in the back, the reliable hands of Samir and also Kamara. Kamara was terrific today. Thought he was the best player on the pitch for Watford. I also thought that Kayembe did a darn good job too, marshalling the back there with his defensive midfield stewardship. Thought that he was very sensible in all areas. He gives a calm, focused confidence to every game that he plays. He has been marvelous thus far. And I thought Uraj Kuchka had a much, much better game, much improved from him over recent weeks. Really pleased that he seemed to be a lot more in continuity with the game and with the kinds of decisions he was making on the ball and off. And I think that that was important as well. Roy Hodgson can take pride in the fact that the defensive foundation has been laid with this clean sheet, but there is much to do at the other end of the pitch. Again, the end product just not there overall. Burnley looked like a very nervous mess in aspects of this game, particularly late in the first half and in much of the second half. Poor passes. They were under threat, but Mark Pope did not have in the end much to do for Burnley. As for Watford's goalkeeper, Ben Foster, he did make a couple of good saves, but he really didn't have a whole lot to do either this match. Of course, on both ends, short on quality between the bottom two teams in the Premier League. Burnley rock bottom now, as they have been for a number of weeks, and Watford now recently have slipped into that bottom three, but they now move up from second bottom to third bottom thanks to this very important point tonight at Turf Moor. Always a difficult place to come and play against the Burnley side who know what to do in these kinds of games, and you know what Burnley are all about. And their set pieces, thankfully, weren't as many as they could have been, and Watford defended all of them well. And that is going to be confidence boosting for this side as they move on to the next match, as I said, on Tuesday at West Ham. Like the defensive profile of the team, Cathcart looked a lot better and a lot sturdier than he has in recent games. Samir has been an absolute brick wall. And again, I think that Kamara, particularly, was very good today indeed. As for Sissoko, he did his usual calm and methodical performance. I think he was a lot better than he had been in the last couple of games. And I do think that Roy Hodgson and Ray Lewington have injected a bit of new life into the team. They had a bit more intensity today, a bit more of an attitude of we want to do something here. And they did some things, but not a lot of things when it came to the goal mouth. Of course, there was a goal mouth scramble in that first half, and the ball was bouncing like a pinball in that 6 yard box. But Watford players could not get that final toe to it to poke it home over the line. That would have been just the kind of thing that Watford would have needed, and they would have probably sat back, which is what Roy Hodgson's focus is going to be in these remaining 17 games, to get anything you can early on in the game and then sit back and defend the game out in stages, of course, and in blocks as they did today. I thought the Watford transition game was a lot better, although when Tom Cleverley came on, he gave away a ball that really could have been curtains for Watford in this fight against relegation. I do think, though, overall, that you looked at today a solid defensive display. Roy Hodgson building that defensive foundation, his pragmatism and his ability to get these players to do tactically what he wants showed up today. And as I said, a game that could have been very difficult indeed, and it was in all these conditions. The Watford fans must be given a big round of applause tonight for their trip up north to the northwest of England in Lancashire. A good support base could be heard from here in California, as the Watford fans were loud and proud as always. And also, heads up and a good job out of the Watford board tonight for making sure that the Watford fans who traveled all the way up to Turf Moor were welcomed with free scarves that they could have. I thought that was a very nice move as well. More of the same, please. And of course, for Watford, we'd like more clean sheets as well going forward. It will be a tough ask on Tuesday, but you never know. West Ham had a long game today in the FA Cup. And with that said, anything can happen, of course. And Watford, we owe West Ham one, don't we? Of course, today was a day that was a game that we were looking for 3 points from. But when you don't get 3 points, best to make sure that you do get one. And Watford did that today. And the final score was Burnley nil, Watford nil. Of course, this game is a start. The first clean sheet of the season has finally come after, would you believe, 21 games. That is finally put to bed now. Watford, the last team in all of England's top four divisions to get a clean sheet, their first of the season. And that is an important statistic that will give the lads confidence going into their next game against West Ham. It will be their second game in a series of 3 games that we played inside of 8 days. Today's game, Tuesday's game, and then next Saturday's game at home against Brighton. Today, though, it was Burnley nil, Watford nil. This has been the Orns 10-minute take.